subscribe, and join us on the journey. Now let's get back to the debrief. Alright, thank you so much for joining us. In the final episode of this season, we're going to go through the entire Seattle and Pacific Northwest trip that we just completed. We're going to review what we liked about it, what we didn't, and what our final opinion is on whether you should go visit yourselves. Then, once we finish that, I will provide you every single penny spent across every episode and some items that haven't been included yet to give you the total cost of this trip, not including flights or car rentals. Becca and I went on this trip because we were really interested in the Pacific Northwest and possibly even moving there at some point. I love the mountains and the woods, and my wife, she kind of likes that overcast sky, and we both love cooler temperatures, not to mention the water. I mean, the ocean's right there. It might not be your typical beach that you think of with the sand and the warm water that you're going to go surfing in, but it's still just water as far as the eyes can see. And coming from the Midwest, it's a lot hotter here during the summer and a lot colder here during the winter. Having a range of 0 degrees to 100 degrees is just, it's horrible, and neither of us actually enjoy it. So that's one of the reasons we've looked at this area to possibly move to, hence us taking a vacation there to kind of see what it'd be like, not to mention just having a vacation to enjoy our time. Flying into Seattle, we admittedly didn't spend very much time there. We did go ahead and go down to the Starbucks and checked that place out. We're both Starbucks drinkers, my wife more than myself since I don't like coffee. But we wanted to go see what the original one looked like, which I'm sure is a very big tourist attraction since there was a line out the door when we got there. It was fine being there and getting to experience the area where that Starbucks is located, but in the end, it was still just a Starbucks. It wasn't necessarily a needed stop on the trip. It was more of a to say that we had been there. Then we went down to the Pike's Place Market. We admittedly didn't go through all of it. We just walked through maybe a quarter to half of the sections that were there. Got to see a lot of different artists and their work and what they were putting up for sale. But we eventually just went ahead and walked out towards the water and enjoyed the time along the edge of the market and just kind of looked out at the view. Now, to go with our Starbucks drinks, we went ahead and went to Piroshki's, which was just a couple doors down, and it just smelled incredible outside of that place. So walking by and being hungry as we were, we had no choice but to kind of follow our noses and walk in there and see what they had to offer. As I'm sure you noticed, some of the items didn't necessarily taste as good as we expected, but it's not that they were bad. It's just we had higher expectations, so we set ourselves up to fail when we purchased from there to begin with. We actually did enjoy some of the items. There was an apple pastry that I had that I'm a big fan of apples, so I greatly enjoyed that. And there was also some kind of wrapped chocolate mousse pastry that I'm not quite sure what it was, but that one was probably the highlight of all the items that we purchased. Now, I know a glaring omission to most of you is the Space Needle. We'd thought about going up there and actually kind of seeing the area and including going up the Space Needle, but once we were there, we knew that was more of a tourist thing. While yes, we were tourists, it's not something that we necessarily really were aching to see. So because of that, once we finished with our morning, we went ahead and got on with our day. After we were finished eating and we walked a couple of the streets, just kind of seeing the layout of the town a little bit, we got in our car and headed out towards Olympia. So we only actually probably spent 2 to 3 hours most actually in Seattle proper before getting in a car and heading out. Now, we've been told how beautiful Olympia was, which is why it's an area that we've thought about moving to someday. And when we got there, I don't know if we were just on the wrong end of town. I have seen some pictures of the area around the Capitol, which we didn't actually go to that section of Olympia. Where we're at is more downtown, and it was fine. It just wasn't necessarily anything that grabbed our attention and wanted us to, stay longer. So after a couple hours there, walking around the downtown, getting a quick bite to eat, and then picking up some groceries at the market down there to take to the place we were staying, we headed out to Gig Harbor, where our vacation rental was, and we had finally hit that place where it was just awestruck beauty. We loved it in Gig Harbor. and I cannot recommend it enough for any of you that might be interested in heading up to the Pacific Northwest, of visiting Gig Harbor, getting a vacation rental in that area, and just spending some time in that small town. It was fantastic. The place we stayed at was about 10 minutes or so, maybe a little longer, from the actual downtown area, because we wanted to get something a little bit farther away from the traffic. Not that there's necessarily a lot of traffic in a small town, but we wanted to be somewhere a little bit off the beaten path. And we absolutely loved where we stayed. You may have heard my wife say as we're walking through, "How much do you want for your house, buddy?" Not that it was a completely legitimate offer to purchase the house, but it was exactly kind of the view that we would love to have at some point if we actually have a place of our own on the water. Now, I'm sure realistically it was probably quite a bit out of our price range, but we still love the property all the same, and we recommend it to anybody else that went there. The people who we rented from were very courteous, got us the information immediately that we needed when we booked the rental. Now, while it was quite a bit off the beaten path, that's exactly what we were looking for. It was a small annoyance having to carry our bags all the way there, but hey, we knew that going in, so we knew what we were preparing ourselves for, so that's nothing against the property or the owner, but I would want anyone who decides to rent in that area and possibly rents the same place to know that going in. There is a good 5 to 10 minute walk with your luggage from the parking area to the actual front door. But it's at least a unique experience so that you can actually enjoy the walk as you're getting to the property. Leavenworth, Washington. My wife comes from a Germanic background, and so we were both interested in going and seeing this area because I saw some pictures online and it looked really, really pretty down that street, showing all the Bavarian themed buildings with the mountain in the background. Now, when we got there, it wasn't so much for us. It's not that I'm saying that anybody else couldn't have had a good time. I'm sure they could. It just didn't end up grabbing us the way that I had expected. This could be another instance of me setting my expectations higher than what's going to be delivered to me, which is my own fault. But once I got inside the buildings, it seemed like any other small town strip mall. Nothing stuck out to me other than the facade on the outside of them to really draw in that same feeling from walking down the street. Now, this is just how it felt to us. Admittedly, we might have just not gone to the right buildings and experienced what they had inside of them. And that's not to put down anything being done in that town. It just didn't appeal to us enough to want to come back a second time. Still, everyone we spoke to was very polite to us and helpful and really wanted us to enjoy our time there. When we went to Mount Rainier National Park, that was something huge on my list. I very much enjoy the outdoors, hiking, camping, and so I was greatly looking forward to seeing what this park had to offer. It was a bit of a drive to get there from Gig Harbor, but that's where we chose to stay, so you might stay a little closer if you're doing nothing but the national park, but we were trying to sample much of the area. Even though it was a long drive, it was still an enjoyable one once we got out of the city and actually into the mountains area. There were even some areas of the road that were very bumpy, not in a way that jarred the whole car, but it was more like a roller coaster ride, so that was actually kind of fun, going along with all the beauty we got to look at around us. That hike was probably one of the highlights for me, being such a lover of the outdoors, and that waterfall was absolutely gorgeous, and it was only roughly a 3-mile loop, so it's not out of the range of possibility for anyone to go on that. So you don't have to be somebody that walks, 10, 15, 20 miles a day in order to do that trail and get to experience that waterfall. Along with Mount Rainier, another place that I really wanted to go was Olympic National Park. We didn't actually get there though, which is a fault of my own. When I looked up where Olympic National Park was versus Gig Harbor, I knew it was a couple hours drive to get there. But what I didn't pay attention to until we were actually at the vacation rental and planning our day when we were supposed to go to the national park is all of the trails I wanted to walk were on the opposite side of the national park. Now, by this point, we had done a 3-hour drive to Leavenworth and back. We had done a couple hours in the car from Seattle to Olympia and then to the Gig Harbor location. And then we had also already done 2 hours in the car to Mount Rainier and back. So when I saw that it was supposed to be a 4-hour drive to all of the hiking trails that I wanted to do, nope, not doing that. I've already had enough time in the car. So that gave us a day just to kind of be lazy and explore Gig Harbor a little more, go look at some of the shops and stores that they had, and just kind of put our feet up a little more and just enjoy the area as opposed to being in the car so much to see all the surrounding areas. Something that was very high on my wife's bucket list was to go whale watching, and after doing a little Google searching to find some places that did that in the area, what we found was the Puget Sound Express. Now, I'm not having any paid advertising for them or anything like that. This is just the shirt that I purchased while I was on the trip, and my wife bought a similar shirt and a hoodie for herself. I just think it's fun to actually wear the shirts from the trip on the videos. It was a lot of fun being on the boat, going out into the water and heading out trying to find whales. It was a bit of a rainy day at first, but the clouds did eventually kind of disperse a bit, let the sun come out, and it dried up to where we can enjoy some of the time out on the boat, looking out of the water, trying to find some whales. We didn't actually spot any ourselves. We ended up having to go all the way up into the Canadian waters where another boat had spotted a whale and radio to everyone else that was in the area doing that same service. So we did get to see one, but it was way, way, way out there. It's not like it's right up next to the boat where you can almost reach out and touch it. I mean, it's a distance away, so it's probably a good idea to have some binoculars to be able to see them when you get there. The boat does provide some of those for free to all of its guests, but I'm not sure if they had enough for everybody. I didn't personally grab any. It's not that they ran out. My wife had a pair, so we were just sharing between us. But if you're somebody who actually owns their own binoculars, maybe even a really good pair that can really see far out there, I'd recommend bringing those with you so you can really get a glimpse of that whale kind of up close without it actually being right next to you. Now, on our whale watching trip, in addition to the sweet threads that we purchased, we also picked up some of the Coffee for Life mugs, and with those, anytime we choose to go back and take that trip again with them to hopefully maybe see more than one whale this time, we can bring that mug with us and just get unlimited refills every single time we bring that back. We don't actually have to repurchase our drinks, we just bring the mug. Now, the sandwiches we got while we're on that trip, I probably wouldn't order again. It's not that they were bad, it's just that they allow you to bring your own food on as well, and I could have probably brought something else that I would have enjoyed much more. But the blueberry buckle, very much worth it. I did greatly enjoy that, so I would recommend anyone that goes on the Puget Sound Express to purchase the blueberry buckle to have on board with them during their voyage. Now, one of our last days there, we did drive all the way up to Everett, Washington to go to the Funko Pop headquarters. Now, all I understand, it's just a store selling little figurines. I actually enjoy some of the Funko Pop stuff, and to be able to see the headquarters and all the very large sized figurines they have, and some of the interactive items, and being able to sit in the Batmobile, I mean, come on, it was something for me, and I really wanted to be a part of it. Some of the items I purchased at the store were a little Stay Puft eating a graham cracker, Doc Brown and his mind-reading device, and a Boba Fett bobblehead. Now, I didn't buy any of the Ninja Turtle Funko Pops while I was there, even though I was very much tempted. But I'm actually glad I didn't, because I found something else just after we got back from our vacation that I just had to grab. When I found this big guy from Ninja Turtles 2 with the donuts, I'm glad I waited and got this one. In the end, Becca and I had a great time in the area and actually are very much looking forward to going back. Probably in the winter, because we got to see the area in the summertime. Now we'd like to see what the winter is like there to really find out if that area is meant for us or not. Now, if these videos have made the area look remotely intriguing to you as a place to possibly visit, please let me know in the comments if you have any questions on the things that we did or didn't do, and I can reply to you with any of my recommendations of the area that we saw. So anyone who's actually been to Seattle or anywhere else in the Pacific Northwest, where else should we have gone? What would you recommend that we should do next time we're there? Thank you so much for joining this season of Destination Debrief. We'll be back with another trip soon. But I know what you're really here for, beyond just seeing what we did, is to see the price tag to really help make that decision whether it's right for you or not. So here you go.